Entrepreneurship. What does that word really mean to you? For some, it could be the lifestyle and the luxuries that they've always wanted. For others, it could be the time that they got back. And back in the day, it used to be, hey, they didn't want to work or they were lazy. But all in all, good things are always talked about. But what about the ugly side of entrepreneurship? The things that are not talked about. Come with us as we explore these things with 10 different individuals. Welcome to the ugly side of entrepreneurship. All right, y'all, you tuned in for another episode of the ugly side of entrepreneurship, and I have Miss Ellie here, Miss Ellie White. And we're gonna get to her story. As you've probably seen other stories, they're more established entrepreneurs. This is one who started just from the beginning. Yes. So let's dive in before we get into that transition. Let's get your background. You know what I'm saying? You an analyst for Twitter. Went to Georgia State University. What was your major?
I was a psychology major.
Really?
I was actually supposed to be like a biochemist or something. I do not have the personality for that.
I thought they were just stuck in labs and stuff like that.
Yeah, I don't have the personality for that. Literally,
you have to be out and about.
Yeah, like literally what we would do, look at a culture sample for hours and write notes on it. And that was your job.
I'm sure that was probably boring to you.
I could not do it.
You seem more like an extrovert type of person.
Really? I'm a homebody. I'm a homebody until I go outside. And then I guess because everybody in my whole life was an extrovert, I just kind of learned how to be that. But I'm the first person to leave the party. I promise you. I'll go to the party.
But like just talking to people and stuff like that, even in new environments and stuff, do you naturally? Yeah, so you're extroverted. I guess. Or at least you're introverted with extroverted qualities. Hey, there's hybrids and stuff like that. I guess you could probably tell I'm pretty much extrovert. I'm 10 all the time.
I like that though. Because it's real. Like, I like real people. And honestly, we need extroverts in our lives, because if everybody was an introvert,
we wouldn't have things wouldn't happen. But yeah, so how long did you work for Twitter?
I worked for Twitter for 2 years.
Oh, wow. Yeah. So tell us, how'd you get the job at Twitter?
So pandemic happened, and during the pandemic, I was making like $45K. And the person I was with lost their job, and I was not covering the bills. So I got a second job, and my second job just happened to be for Twitter. So what they do is, like, most people start off as contractors, and they tell you, like, a big company wants to interview you. They don't tell you who it's for until, like, the third interview. And then the lady said, "Hi, I work for Twitter." And I was like, "Oh, thanks." Like, I would have tried much harder before. So I talked to my boss, who's my boss for 2 years, and it was a black woman, and that was the first time I had seen a black woman in tech, like in a managerial position. So I was like, yeah, I want this job. And we clicked. And
so what did you do as far as like your job roles and stuff?
So I was an operations analyst, and I worked in the support system. So you know how you have agents that answer the questions that you send in? Well, my job was to monitor how well they did that. So how fast do they answer questions? Did they get the question right? Does the customer enjoy them? Is there any features that people keep bringing up? And then the other side of it was, if something was broken, I was like the bell ringer. So I had to tell all the people on the product team, the development team, all the other team, this is broken. This is how many customers it's affecting, and this is how many people are complaining about it. So all around job.
Okay. So during that time, because it's been a while since I worked in corporate. And even when I did, back in 2013, so I forgot how to work for other people. So even when I did, it was still a unionized job or whatever. So I had my shift and I had to leave. And like sometimes I would have to work 16 hours, but once I was gone, I was gone. The job didn't follow me home or anything.
Nice.
Working for Twitter, did that? Was it like a?
It was a remote job because I found it during the pandemic, so no one was going into work.
So what about like just working then? And did you feel like you had personal time, or was it more?
Kinda. Yes and no. So I had 2 jobs while I worked at Twitter. Like for my first 9 months when I was a contractor, I had 2 jobs. So I guess you do have personal time, but I used my personal time to make more money with another job.
Yeah.
When I got hired full time, I actually made enough money for those 2 jobs combined, so I didn't have to.
Yeah, working jobs.
So then after that, Twitter had fun things like they had days of rest. So the first Monday of every month, everybody was off.
Oh, okay, cool.
And so that was already built in. Plus you had like 25 days of vacation. If you worked there for a year, you had 2 weeks of bereavement. You had sabbaticals you could take. Some people would be gone. One of my coworkers had a baby and she was gone 9 months. Paid the whole time.
No,
Twitter was great. Like you definitely have personal
big enough
time.
those resources too, though.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they have a lot of resources. It was great because everybody at Twitter, or at least the people I talked to, had side hustles. And so a lot of people could just tell their manager, like, hey, I got something else to do. And either their manager would cover for them or they would find a way for them to work at a different time zone. Because Twitter was 24 hours a day. So maybe they worked on the Japanese time zone. So early as crap in the morning, so the rest of the day they didn't have to work. But you still always had to get your hours in. They just didn't really care when.
Gotcha. Okay, but there was flexibility and all that stuff. Do you feel like it was a company that, you know what I'm saying, people could thrive in and work their way up and all that stuff?
They had lots of opportunities. Like, they begged you for opportunities. So they had a lot of, like, internal groups that they had. And one of the ones I was a part of was Blackbirds. And it was all the black people in the company would get together and it was like Black Twitter at Twitter. Like, that's what we would do.
That's actually I was going to go for. So how does it...
That was so cool.
Did you ever get like, okay, so being inside the company, did you ever get like the history of that? How did like Black Twitter come about?
I don't know how Black Twitter came about.
Has anybody mentioned that?
No one like really has the history, and if they did, it's a question
they just
I
know
should
it's a thing,
ask.
though.
It is a thing. No, Twitter relies on Black Twitter. Like they actually have people who like monitor that and make content specifically for Black Twitter. Like,
but Black Twitter is just black folks talking about stuff.
I know,
it makes it popular.
Okay, that's black people on Twitter. Have y'all seen white people on Twitter? White people on Twitter like talk about the book they just wrote in the news and like what happened at their kids' school. It's like the most boring shit ever. Like it is not the same thing.
No,
like,
I know.
The types of ads that you would give to regular Twitter, you could never do to Black Twitter because they're never gonna watch it. So there was people there who like really knew exactly who was typing and what they were gonna talk about, and that's how they came up with ads, with productions, everything. Y'all remember the Watch This thing from Usher? They had a whole entire segment where they talked to Usher about how he came up with that, specifically like monitored and sent to Black Twitter. I don't think anybody else saw it.
Wow, that's amazing. There's a culture within the culture.
And they knew it and loved it and would like breed it. Like they were like, what else should we add to it? Like those are the questions every week.
Okay,
like,
so
what are you
then
watching?
You're no longer at Twitter.
Thank goodness. I'm so sorry.
Okay, so explain to me why the thank goodness then. Like, was it due to like
the change in management?
Okay.
I would say change in management. So when I got there, Jack Dorsey, who created Twitter, still owned Twitter. I think about
or at least the majority share.
Whatever. He was CEO. Like, and when you thought about Twitter, it was Jack. And if you wanted to bring something to him, he was nice. Like, he had an open door policy, so you could really bring anything to him. If you were a Twitter person, you could, and you had your little. So at Twitter, they give you like this blue filter, so that he would know that it was a Twitter person who worked for him who was tweeting him. So you could tweet him and he'll tweet you back if you had like ideas or you wanted something shared or whatever. Like, it was very awesome.
Yeah.
That when he sold it, when I was about 6 months in, that's when everything kind of just collapsed. Like, collapsed. People just started leaving. So teams of people where people had worked 7, 9, 10 years, because Twitter was not a job that people left. All of a sudden, no one used to work for Twitter. I would say about a year after he left, I think the oldest person that I worked with had worked there 3 years. So like all
culture,
the culture just diminished.
Yeah.
Like no one cared about the culture. The guy who put in charge was a developer, and if anybody has ever worked with developers, they're not people.
They're very analytical.
Yeah, very, very logical. So for him, as long as everything works code-wise, everything was fine.
They don't see the importance of culture inside of a business.
Exactly. So it was just not cultivated. And then when the buyout news happened, it went even worse. Like people started being very cutthroat because they didn't want to be laid off. So everything was a problem. So that personal time that we used to have, and I'll cover for you when that out the window.
Yeah.
If you wanted to, like we had, you have quarterly reviews. All of a sudden, everything was a problem. If you weren't there for one day, they said you weren't available. If you missed one Slack message, dings. Like the whole culture went away. Like the whole, okay, we understand work-life balance, like gone. It was as if I was working for a bank.
Yeah.
And went right back to very rigid, cameras on all the time, which used to never be a thing.
So you actually work, it sounds like you used to work for a bank.
I did. I used to work.
Like you give very specific details about how a bank operates.
Yeah, no, I worked for Bank of America. That was my very first job.
Yeah, I got Bank of America accounts.
Yeah.
Business accounts too.
Nah, that place does stockings, high heels, collared shirt. Place I'm not like that either. That was just as bad as working in the lab.
So you leave Twitter. How long was that ago?
November.
Oh, recently.
November, so yeah.
Okay, so now so in between there, you've had your podcast, Entrepreneurish, which I think is a great play on words. And you've had that for a few years now. So your entrepreneurial journey, I would say, as far as like tangible journey starts there. But I'm sure it predates that with like ideas and stuff like that. So why like jump into that space?
Okay, so on my mom's birthday, my mom's had like friends that I've known since I was like little. Used to go over there and do play dates with their sons. Their son was dating this girl that I had interviewed back in 2018. And she had this soap line for kids with eczema. And I just thought that she was like the greatest person ever. So I was like, I just had this show idea. Can you come on my show? So we met and we did an interview. And then I found out at that dinner that she committed suicide. Like 6 months after I had filmed that. And that was when I was like, oh my God. A part of you feels guilty because you feel like there's something that you could do. My guilt stemmed from, you didn't even try to promote that show or tell more people about it or give that as a baby shower gift to every single person that you've ever like met. Like I felt like I could have helped her see her value, because I think a lot of us have value when we just can't see it. So hearing that, like literally next day I started trying to find people to interview, because I was like, I don't want anybody to ever feel again that they're not worth it.
Not valued,
I feel like everybody needs a platform. I was like, even though I have a small platform, here's mine. Like at least there's somebody who thinks that you're cool, and somebody like a link you could share with your people. So I started Entrepreneurship back up, and that's why I like go so hard for it, is because it's really like, it's hard in the beginning. And so I feel like as long as somebody can interview you during that time, maybe you'll feel just special enough to go one more day.
So what did you learn in that process, and like, what were some of the like the ugly sides of like really launching your podcast and putting your platform out there and building it?
Everything. I don't know how to say this. Like, if you're gonna do a podcast, you need sound equipment. That costs money. Like good sound equipment costs money. So that was one. Two, everybody was like, oh, all podcasts are videos now. and have a camera. And then now that I have a camera and like okay audio equipment, then you're supposed to know how to edit. Oh my God, that's like a whole nother like 3-year process. And then on top of that, finding like your own inspiration, I think have been like the biggest thing. So like I have a computer, but my computer memory is full because I decided to film for these people. So now I have to find a way. Like I was telling you, I have like 7 Gmail accounts because I need all of those different Google Drives to hold my videos that I kept. And I use like 6 different apps to film one episode, or I have to change something from Windows to Mac to put it all together in like iMovie. I suck at all of this. And it's hard. It's just a lot of work. It feels like I need like a team of 100 people and there's just me. So some days it's discouraging, but then I just remember why I'm doing this, and I do it anyway.
Does it feel like it's a lonely world?
It does. I know, especially for me, like I'm just finding a circle of people that think that I could do this. Everybody else wants me to go back and be an analyst. I made a lot of really good money off of being an analyst. So it's not like I'm starting from nothing. I'm going from somebody who made way more than 6 figures to making nothing. Like, and having absolutely no idea how much money I can make the next day. But I don't know. That's why it feels lonely. It feels like, okay, well, I have this idea, and who wants to be a part of it? I never know who I'm going to interview. I never know who's going to watch it. All of that.
How has interviewing people, like as far as like approaching people and people seeing the value of what you do, and then just respecting the time and stuff like that. Have you ran into those situations?
I have a whole episode on what to do when you get canceled on, because that happens a lot.
I was actually looking at the episode earlier today.
Yes, there's a lot of those, because I would say, hey, I would love to meet you. I'd send my whole thing of the questions I'll ask them, some reminders. I'll call them the day before, the week before, make sure everything's okay. Ask them about their kids. Have like literally ask everything. The day shows up, nothing. The hour shows up, nothing. And then like 2 hours after we were supposed to film, I'll get a text message that says, hey, I'm not coming. Well, obviously you're not coming, but like I have to find stuff to do in between that, and that happens a lot. But every once in a while you get lucky and somebody's just as excited about it as you are, and it works. I've had bigger names than I thought come on my show just because I was so excited about my show. I don't even think they ever watched their own episode, but it's up there.
How do you like the promotion of it and the marketing side of building the platform and putting it out there?
I'm a copywriter, so that's kind of what I'm doing right now in between jobs. So marketing's fine. I can write the words for it. It's like I said, it's really computer memory that is like bothering me right now. So I have a ton of footage, just no way to edit it together into something. Like 30 seconds is what we all have to gain people's attention. And if you have a 20-minute video, trying to figure out what 30 seconds of that people want to watch has been the second biggest challenge.
Yeah, don't think about it too hard.
Okay, thanks for saying that.
Like even with my reels and stuff, I don't think about it too hard. But again, I also been doing this for like 6 years.
Yeah.
And this February makes going into my 7th year.
Wow.
And hundreds of videos that I've edited, folks, to where I actually have the playlist and everything now. And then, I've constantly built a brand and invested in that brand too, like advertising and stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think that's where, the recognition and stuff will come in with you when people start to recognize you more and more and more.
What I really want to do is like plaster Atlanta with just my logo and a QR code, and I really might do that.
Hey, that's an option. I've been seeing a lot of rappers who just put their QR code along with their face or whatever, and I've scanned it a couple of times, and just make sure it works.
Like, I'll take that view. I don't care.
But that guerrilla type, that's called guerrilla marketing.
Oh, that's what
guerrilla marketing actually works. Is basically trying to get your message out there to many people as possible on a shoestring budget. Not saying that you don't have a budget, but it's a shoestring budget. So it's not like thousands upon thousands of dollars or whatever. But it is something just to help build momentum and all that. So what would be like one thing, if you had to like go back and redo it, what would be one thing that you would do differently?
I would say actually believe in my own ideas.
Okay.
Because I would say 3 notebooks full of fantastic ideas, shows, interview prospects, like all kinds of things. Just like, I was like, no, that's stupid. And I left it in that notebook. And then like, I promise you, I probably have like $50 million in just these notebooks, just sitting there. So this is the first time I've actually tried to actually finish an idea. Entrepreneurship was something that I thought of when I was in college. And it's the first time I'm actually like executing on an idea that I wrote down. So that's why I would say believing in myself and actually going through the motions of, man, this sucks, and still doing it anyway. Because like I said, when I was at the lab and it sucked, I quit. When I was at the bank and it sucked, I quit. So I'm trying to get to a point where it's like, sometimes stuff just
But this is you though, right?
Yeah, this is me.
I don't think the lab
Real.
or the bank was actually you. That's the
That's
infrastructure you became a part of. This has to do with you. So what you put into it is what you get out of it. I understand like, the discouraging moments and stuff like that, because it does get lonely. But I also encourage fellow entrepreneurs to like hang around with other entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
And to
That's what I
actually
need to
like,
do.
not just to like, network or whatever, but just to be around each other, even if it's just in a social construct. Because other entrepreneurs can identify with you and relate and will be more supportive, reacting than people who cannot understand what you're trying to do. And then even more, when you find other entrepreneurs that are in the same area that you're in, that's even better, because now you got someone who can really, get you going or whatever, and then tell you about their mishaps and stuff like that and what didn't work, and really be encouraging and put you in those positions to win. That's how I look at that. We all need one another. And then like, I like hanging around newer entrepreneurs because y'all get to like bring me information, and sometimes I might do something just because I've been used to accustomed to doing it one way, and now I'm trying something different, or see new things that are emerging that, okay, we can tap into that.
Gotcha.
And nobody like realizes that that's a thing right now.
Yeah.
I've seen that a couple of times.
Oh my gosh. And so I feel like with my younger cousins and their TikTok stuff, I'm like, okay. Never would have thought about that, but it's cool to see, like, it is cool to see how people live. So I personally moved into a building with people who make a lot of money on purpose. Like, I picked that place so I could know what they do. So from random cookouts, I've met people who make tons of money. I would have never known that industry existed. So I understand what you mean by like, network is really your net worth. Like that's a real thing. I thought that was just something people said, like, oh yeah, I know, get you some rich friends.
No, that's real. That's real. That's real.
It's super real.
Also changing your circle too. You know what I'm saying? Like, and that's what that is. So where do you plan, or what do you want to happen from like here on out?
From here on out, so my hashtag right now is drop the ish. Drop the ish.
Oh, drop the ish. Okay.
Yeah, I don't want to be entrepreneur-ish anymore. I would like to be an entrepreneur. So that is what I'm doing. I am learning from people who make money from doing what I do, how to do that, how to monetize myself, how to believe in my own ideas, how to see the things in myself that I don't really see. Like, apparently I come off intimidating, but I didn't know that, and I don't understand how that happened. Intimidating to people who aren't ready for somebody with a lot of ideas. So I have a ton of ideas.
Oh, okay, I got you.
And to other people who never had an idea in their life, they're like, oh my God, okay, like, calm down. Just get a job, it's fine. But like, I'm like, no, I can't.
Don't you be speaking on plantation words to me.
Right, that's exactly how it feels.
Sorry.
That's how it feels. So, and like, I talk to my family all the time about some of this stuff, and that's what I was saying. Like, it's hard because they all have jobs.
Mm-hmm.
So me saying I don't want one seems like, what's wrong with you? What's wrong with a job? Like,
but that's
job's
how
not
people
good
are
enough for
exactly.
you.
Well, your job is you, and we've been conditioned until we break away from that or whatever to understand that there's way more ways to get money out here. And like I get it, a job is security, but what instead I tell folks that I never seen someone who worked for themselves, like just work for yourself, 40 hours a week, whatever, 60 hours a week, and after 30 years you don't have anything to show for yourself. I do know people who have worked for organizations that long or multitude had a career and you ain't got no retirement plan.
Yeah, so. Twitter showed me that. This whole layoff thing, like I had a really, really good job. I did absolutely nothing wrong and lost it. Had nothing to do with me. And so that's why I was like, yeah, that can't happen again. Like,
exactly.
Know your worth, make your own money, and then it will never stop.
No, and I'm not saying that everybody should go be an entrepreneur because I also believe that too. Now y'all not cut out for it, so that's fine. That's not you, because you have to live and breathe this. When I go home, I'm thinking about different stuff, and I interact, and I come up with new ideas, and I keep growing, and I stay consistent. And that's what drives me. What can I accomplish next? I feel like I can do more and more. Because at one point, I thought I couldn't be as busy as I am this year, and I thought that last year. But then when I did it this year, I was like, okay, well, I guess I can get even busier. And then for next year,
was crazy. I do know.
Let me see if I can get even crazier. Let me see if I can top this.
I literally thought it was crazy until I started this show and I started talking to entrepreneurs, and that's how they think. Because I'd be up till like 4 a.m. with all kinds of ideas.
You have to be obsessive.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And you have to be crazy.
Yeah.
Because you're doing stuff that other people, there's no blueprint for. Like their podcasts, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, sure. There's 4 million podcasts out there, and I'm sure there's more have been added. 2.4 million are on Apple. Of those, only 400,000 released an episode within the last 90 days, and of that, only 200,000 have released an episode in the last 10 days. So that means there's room for growth.
Yeah.
Because those 200,000 is every single type of podcast.
Yeah.
So then you talk about Black women experiences and stuff like that. That's very niched not minute, but it's very niched or whatever. But there's a huge audience it could appeal to, and there's not that many people dominating that space. Or even with entrepreneurship and the certain things about entrepreneurship, even if it's a podcast on just podcast entrepreneurship. There's my podcast on SBA loans or whatever and how to get them. I'm like, there's crime, there's generality podcasts, there's entertainment. I'm like, so to me, I love the fact that I see all these new people jumping in the podcast space, but I do say I want to see who's consistent and who's will stand the test of time. Yeah. Because I'll put in my work and people see it. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, it's categorized or cataloged.
Oh, okay.
That's the word I was going for.
Yeah.
Cataloged. But I know that I'm very selective of like who I work with because I've already done the little radio.
Yeah.
I was expanded the first time I made that radio show. Let's see, of all those people I work with, maybe one is coming back and that still has different stipulations around their personal life that I can't control any of that. But nobody of the original 8 people that I brought on are here.
They're still there.
Now the second round or whatever, I'm doing more producing of the shows, and then I brought on Mel or whatever, and Mel.
Hello, Mel. Hi.
Exactly. Mel seems like a stickler. She's gonna stay.
Oh. Mel's dreams are happening. That is how she talks to everybody.
But I love it though. And we did some stuff, and then she does some stuff on her own as well, which I love that. I want to. I'm not gonna pigeonhole people. But it's hard finding people to be, who's passionate about it, who's consistent, this is what they want to do. Some people want to use it as an opportunity, as a stepping stone, and I'm cool for that as long as there's something there solid. But when you use it as a stepping stone and it just collapses, I'm like, you didn't put enough work.
It's not really a stone.
Exactly. It's not a stone. So, it's about, just going through the motions about it. And I've learned that through various businesses and stuff. You got to go through the motions in order to hit the foundations that you want to build to make the house and the mansion and all that or whatever. So.
That's why I started the show, because I did not want anybody to think, oh yeah, you just start a business. Because if you go to Instagram right now, everybody says just get an LLC and a trust and then promote it and then use that money to buy a building. okay, that sounds great. But all of that took probably months, or if not months, a lot more investors than most people have, or a lot more eyes than most people have, or a lot more confidence than most people have, or a lot more of a network than most people have. So it's kind of like, let's talk about that part. Because not everybody just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
It's not that. But yeah, if it was that easy, everybody could do it. But apparently, everybody can't do it. I do love the fact that this is something new, and it's still considered a new media, even though it's been around for decades, decades plus. I want to say the first podcast and stuff was back in the 90s. But it wasn't visual. I think it was just like almost simulated like radio, but it wasn't. I love the fact that it's not regulated. Love it. And the industry it's going to shake out. You know what I'm saying? It's going to shake out the wannabes or whatever. Because we see that with every other form of like, you know, creativity or whatever. The ones who are meant to be there will last, and the ones who are not, they won't. They'll jump in one day and jump out the next, or you know, a week or whatever the case may be. I see it all the time. I like to take personal satisfaction in some of them. It's just like, yeah, you know.
I do it.
Hey, I'm a little petty. Yeah. You know that.
At least you're honest.
I'm honest. I accept me as who I am, and I'm fine with it.
Okay.
I accept me.
I need to get there.
So, you know, sometimes hang around me, it'll rub off on you. That's what I like to do. But yeah, I'm trying to think. So is there anything else that I didn't get to mention on your journey that we haven't talked about thus far?
No. Last thing I will say is like, be you. Because what I tried to do in the beginning is be other people's podcasts. Do things that it works for that person. Like, I love Mel, but she's a go-getter. She's a mover. I'm not a mover. I like very scheduled things, and I want a lot of me time. So her way of doing things works for her, and it works very well for her. But like, if I tried to copy that, my burnout would be super, super fast. So like, just because somebody's has a podcast about music doesn't mean that you should do music, because maybe you don't like music as much as that person does. So there's it's just not gonna work. So always be yourself. Even if you're not really sure who yourself is, do what you feel is comfortable, and that's you. That's what I'm gonna say.
I think this was like all my episodes for the other side of entrepreneurship have their own little theme, and it comes from my guests. So I think this one is actually, you know, being confident in yourself and being you, whatever that you is. So yeah.
Don't let anybody tell you can't do it. That's the other thing.
Yes,
you can.
Yeah. I don't like dream killers.
No.
But let everybody know where they can, you know, find you out in the future and stuff like that.
Okay, so everything is entrepreneur-ish. So I am on YouTube at entrepreneur-ish, and I am on Instagram at entrepreneur.ish.podcast. And my personal Instagram page is Elia, that's ELLEYAH. That's me.
Okay, y'all make sure y'all go and support, and as always, y'all can download the Big Dog Radio Show app and, you know, keep supporting our platform and everybody else that we bring on it, and like, you know, new hosts and all that stuff, whatever as well.
You're gonna see me again.
Let's hear it again. But yeah, thank you all for tuning in to this episode of The Ugly Side of Entrepreneurship. See, I did. I got my show. I got so much stuff in my brain. You know,
I'm trying to get like you.
Yeah, you know, this is what it is. But until next time, keep supporting.
Bye.